down the top-down view of the tank. Hurricane Helene come through, knock down this giant tree, drywalling it, turning this into a fish room. Who knows? Hey, bud. Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to Salty Roots. A little bit of a different video today. Going to take you around, show you the property, all the animals, how I have everything set up, some plants, stuff like that. So this is the front of the house, obviously. Over here we have the raised garden bed that I got for Kylie for her birthday, I believe. And not the best looking fence, but we had to put something up here to keep the deer away. They were eating pretty much anything we'd put in here every night, and this fence has certainly kept them away. We have the pineapple over here, huge basil, banana peppers, jalapenos, key lime tree, and then just some other house plants that the deer were getting at that we wanted to put in there as well. And over here, we redid all this landscaping. It was just a mess. And so we started out with trying to do all of this black rock, but this black rock is really expensive and it was way more than we thought we were going to need. And so we shortened it up a little bit, did some mulching, still need some more of the black rock, but some hibiscus in here, some elephant ear plants, this nice bird of paradise that you can see the bugs are getting at. So we need to treat that leaf there. Hopefully keep them away because that one's growing really nice. Some of our other plants here. Bird of paradise that recently flowered. It's towards the end though. All the bird of paradise plants in the neighborhood as I go on runs, I've noticed all flowered about the same time, which is cool to see. Have the sprinkler system here. We dug this well here. There was one here that we ended up finding out was not dug deep enough, so we had to dig our own well that now runs to this pump here. And so after a lot of work redoing a lot of the plumbing here, this house was flipped and sat vacant for some time, and the guy that flipped it didn't know anything about the irrigation, sold it as is. And so luckily it was working for the most part. I just had to dig up a lot of the spots, repair a lot of the lines, sprinkler heads, things like that. And so now, yeah, I have to pay for electric on the pump, but the actual water's free. I can water the lawn as much as I want. This is Franklin's enclosure here. Walk down the side of the house here. I've done a lot of work cleaning up this area of woods. There's a lot of overgrown landscaping here. As I'd said, it did sit vacant for a while, and I think the owners previous to that were elderly and just couldn't keep up with it. And so just kind of cleared a lot of this out. Some muscadine grapes here. And then this is just kind of a flat section of the lawn. As you'll notice, the whole property goes downwards like this. This is a dug down little flat spot, and I think the neighbor told us at one point there was like a play set here and then nothing, and it just grew for a while. And so I put the swing set in here for the girls, some big 6x6s, dug it way down with big cement blocks. And then shortly after that, my sister-in-law got the girls this trampoline, which would have been nice to put right here in this flat spot. And so I'll show you in a second. What I ended up doing was digging down into the ground there to make a flat spot for the trampoline, but it works. And then this was also all overgrown back here. When there was somebody living here, I think he was a metal collector, and had this big wooden platform up here with all this scrap metal. And then this was just, way overgrown. So I cleared all this out, and then we found this orange tree. And it's huge and produces around 100 oranges. I have no idea on the number. I just kind of threw that out there. Tons of oranges every single season. And they're usually ready for harvest around January, February. And they're some of the sweetest, juiciest, just best oranges you've ever had. Let's see if I can find one. There's one there. Bright green. Because it is end of August, early September. So those will continue to grow, and this thing will just be full of bright oranges after Christmas. We love coming out here and picking those. Also have a banana plant over here, a banana tree over here. Our neighbor has tons of these banana trees all the way through the woods back there in her backyard. She said, go back and take as many as you'd like. So we took one, planted it here. It's doing well. And then we put one up there by the pool. It's also thriving. We had Hurricane Helene come through and knock down this giant tree and put it right between our house and the neighbor's house. Luckily, it didn't hit either of our houses, but the root system is pretty crazy. It slopes, like I said, the property down, and then there's a creek back here, so this is all wet. And so when that happens, the roots can't really grow down. It's all just moist. Do is they grow out horizontally instead of down, which makes them very vulnerable to falling over in a storm. So I'll show you this root system. It's pretty crazy to see. So this is the tree, and it goes all the way up there. If you come back here, you can see just how big the root system is and how flat it is. Like I said, it just tipped over in Hurricane Helene. There's a creek back there. Our property goes all the way back to that creek, and I've left this pretty much natural. This is the rest of the backyard. We haven't done anything with the landscaping here other than just kind of weeding and trying to keep it cleared out until we figure out what we want to do. These rail ties were built up higher and ran all the way down, and then there was also a bunch of other rail ties right here and kind of came around. I pulled the majority of them out because most of them look like this, where they were just completely rotted and full of bugs and everything and just nasty. And so I pulled a bunch of them out, left this here to kind of try to keep that as level as possible. We'll figure out something for this spot, and all these sprinklers are now working as well, which is nice for whatever we end up putting there. I have thought about doing a really cool pond back here since it's just pretty wide open. Obviously have to do a lot of digging to make it level, but just, or maybe even utilizing the slope of the land and doing some type of waterfall feature or whatever, but just a really cool koi pond back here. But with the wildlife that we do love watching, that pretty much rules that idea out, because koi are very expensive, and between the fox and the birds and the raccoons, I don't think really there's any fish that would make it out here without having a really big net over the pond, which aesthetically wouldn't really be what I was going for anyway. So tons and tons of wildlife, everything from deer to turkey, foxes, various big tall like crane birds, owls, woodpeckers. I think there's a weasel running around if you watch any of my shorts or Instagram videos. There's an animal that runs around at night that I can't quite identify yet. I got some feedback might be a weasel, but again, all kinds of really cool wildlife that we love to sit up there on the sunroom and check out in the mornings and evenings. We do feed the deer, and so a ton of them come through, and so we can't be too mad that they eat our plants up front because we're feeding them back here. But like I said, it's just a really cool, secluded, kind of private lot here. This spot right next to the pool is actually on this side of the stairs, is where Maya found a huge water moccasin tucked up in between. I say huge, it was pretty big, but between the gutter and the stairs there. And I think big enough that if it would have tagged her, she would have been in the ICU. And so luckily we had somebody come remove that for us. I've only seen one other water moccasin since then. It was a real tiny one, but that guy was scary. And of course, being that there is a creek back there, that's one of the reasons for the water moccasins. A cool plant that I found down here on the edge of the woods. This is a lot, as I said, to take care of, but I do my best to maintain even the wood line. Is this plant here, which I believe, I want to say is called a taro plant. And because it looks so cool and has such big leaves, I've just let it grow here. And I've tried to weed eat around it and kind of just let it take off. Come to find out the other day, I don't know if the microphone picked up that woodpecker is huge. But I found out that these grow a big vegetable underneath, and it's called an island potato. Looks like a big potato. And so one of these days I'll dig one up to see if mine have that vegetable on it. But for now, like I said, I'm just trying to get them to grow all the way down the woods line here because I do think they look cool. Let's see if I can find that woodpecker. This, here it was again. If this video ends up doing well, I'll do more of the property. I'll go back into the woods and show you where the creek is, how big it is, wide it is, deep it is, all that kind of stuff, and additional wildlife that typically lives back there. If people seem to enjoy this kind of thing. There's the trampoline I talked about where I had to dig down. This is my shed. This is random stuff I've collected just over the couple of years we've been here, with being such a, depending on what you're used to, for us, a larger property, and a metal collector being here before, just random things I've found as I've cleaned up and done work around the property. But the shed itself is really cool. Also done some work on it. You know, just random things, like built little shelving for the equipment, and my neighbor had all these cabinets down. She renovated her kitchen, had these down by the road for the trash, so I grabbed a few of them. And of course, being that there's electric here, it's not the best electric. I didn't put this here, it was already here. I don't think it's ran necessarily 100% correctly, but kind of a blank canvas, right? So obviously, me being me, I've had the thought of like, could put some drywall in here and some insulation and get an electrician out here to revamp the electric that is here and turn this into a fish room. But for right now, I definitely need all of this space, as you can see. I think that'd be a cool kind of fish room if I finished it out nice. I have a rough fence here. Hurricane Helene took the fence down, scrapped it back together the best I could. That's the mangrove plant there, the mangrove tank. And the sun goes this way, this is the west. And so we get some evening sun on the mangrove tank there. And then these are all the plants that Bethany and Kyle Garricky gave us as they shut their shop down and had the plant overflow. If you've seen my other videos, they're all doing really well. This one in particular is really cool. It's a species of dragon fruit. And what it actually does is it produces these big white flowers, white yellowish flowers. And then these flowers are actually pollinated nocturnally. So at night, moths and bats and things will come pollinate these flowers. And then very quickly the flower dies off. And underneath the flowers where the actual dragon fruit grows. And so we've really been enjoying kind of watching the process of this happen. There's the flower and there's the fruit with this plant here. Heading into the garage. The Land Rover's at the shop right now, but only the Land Rover sits here. But good opportunity to kind of show you a couple things here. This is obviously the outdoor fridge, and I keep my fish food in here, and then kind of some knives and cutting board up here to chop up some of the frozen fish food. I have my water station hooked up to the Rainsoft water treatment system here. I've had mixed reviews. Some people saying that's good to have that hooked up directly to the water treatment system. Some people saying you don't want to do that, but either way, that's how I have it. It runs up here behind all of my paint and stuff like that, and then into the RODI station. I have my salt water, fresh water, 2DI resin sections, and then just some equipment underneath. This is where my office is now, and this used to be a single stall garage, and so you'd come into the house here, or I'm sure, rather this door wasn't even here, I bet. It was just the garage, and then this was probably the door off the garage. This is actually not fireproof. It's, you shouldn't have a window there. To be honest, we kind of like to be able to look out into the garage, but anyway. So this used to be a garage. See the electric panel there, but it was converted by the flipper into a bedroom and is now my office. Got my workstation, family computer, got the desktop tank, of course, and then the mangrove tank. Closet here. I have my little cart with my trace elements, fragging kit, and just various other things that I need to move from tank to tank. That's my office. This used to be just kind of random shelving on some old nasty wood that I tore all out and put in this drop zone here that has been super helpful for us. Laundry room, HVAC. All the bedrooms. This door is really cool. I think it's original to the house. It's a really, really old door. It's in great shape. And one of our favorite things of the house. And down here you got the kids' little craft area. We do want to put a big bay window here eventually to catch some of that evening sun as it gets a little bit dark over here. Then you walk down into the living room. I really love the ability to kind of look down the top-down view of the tank, just the way that this is all set up. But again, you walk down into the living room. And my favorite part of the house is the display tank. So the display tank sits right in between the pool bathroom wall and these stairs. That was the exact length, which was 5 feet that I could fit, and so that's what I got. Kylie's not going for it quite yet, but I'm trying to convince her to get another one there because there's another 5-foot indent. How cool would that be to have identical tanks on each side? But I don't think she thinks it's as cool as I do. I'm just lucky to have one tank here in the living room. These windows are a cool feature as well up top. Kind of crazy looking at night and you see the blue fish tank lights going through all of these, and as you can imagine, it attracts a lot of bugs, unfortunately, but it is kind of a cooler feature, I think, is those high windows like that. And lastly, we got the pool section. And the big guy, looks like he is, said earlier, eating his lunch right now, Franklin. So I have this tub over here because he's still small enough that all of that wildlife I mentioned, foxes, raccoons, even big hawks and various birds still could potentially come and take him away. And so at night I bring him into this indoor enclosure that's out here in the sunroom. Nice, safe and protected. That's also where he eats. And then I bring him out to the outdoor enclosure about mid-morning. Get him the Florida sun and the UV rays on his shell, which is helpful for him. I do have the lid on it, but I have yet to kind of latch it down. And so for that reason, I still just don't really like leaving him out there overnight. So he's been working on some of this kale for a few hours at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and grab him and take him to the outdoor enclosure. Hey, bud. All right, I'm going to cut this video here because, again, I don't know if anyone's going to enjoy this style of video or if you just want me to keep it strictly to the aquariums and things like that. And so if you want to see more just general property videos, kind of the setup and things like that, let me know down in the comments. As always, please do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you know when the next one's coming out. We'll see you then.